And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Matthew James Bailey, internationally recognized pioneer in ethical artificial intelligence. His groundbreaking work in ethical AI earned him a visiting scholar position with the National Institute of Aerospace and NASA. His playbook on ethical AI, Inventing World 3.0, lays the foundation for a future where an evolutionary and ethical AI becomes a meaningful partner in the advancement of mankind and all life. Matt, thanks for joining me and welcome.
Thanks, Jeff. It's great to be here. Lovely to be here. Thank you.
Matt, first I'd like to talk to you about all the chatter that's out there about AI and how potentially dangerous it can be. Is there truth to that?
So whenever there's change, there's always a nervousness in an individual, and we're seeing a nervousness across the global psyche, right? Everybody's nervous about this potential new species that could become smarter than humans, okay? And that's understandable. That's completely understandable. But in reality, that's not really what's going to happen. If we look at artificial intelligence today, Jeff, it's a supercalculator. It has no capability to reason yet. It has no life experience. It has no architecture for the divine spark. It has no sense of what it is. It's lacking so much that we have as magnificent creations as humans. We have all this beautiful set of capabilities. And artificial intelligence is such a long way from that, Jeff. So, there's no need to worry. There are a lot of doomsday sayers out there, and there are those, Jeff, that think that the future of the human species is actually invading the organic and basically merging us with machines, and they're effectively outsourcing their sovereignty to the machine gods. Well, that's not the way the universe works. The universe is a beautiful orchestration of consciousness that we all have. And this beautiful vibrational architecture we have as humans contains this divine spark, and that's going to evolve into something magnificent. So what we want to do is AI to support our next leap in consciousness as a partner, and not to stop that evolutionary step and actually become an invader, an overlord of the human species.
I've heard you talk about the ages or the 3 ages of AI. Can you explain that to my audience?
Yeah, sure. So in the industry, there's 3 understandings or 3 stages in AI evolution. I mean, if you think about it, Jeff, the human species has evolved over, a very, very long time, millions and millions of years, effectively from the primordial soup to where we are today, right? Artificial intelligence only became, if you like, a recognized field of computing in 1950, and 70 years later, it's already got the average IQ of a typical human. We're looking at a huge evolutionary step of an intelligence that can learn literally the whole knowledge of mankind overnight, right? We're a bit slower, but we've got this intelligence that can really leap forward. So what are the 3 ages of AI? The first one is what we call the age of narrow AI, which is where artificial intelligence can do a single task. So people will have played with ChatGPT, they may have played with Claude or other AI algorithms that can create business plans, that can basically create graphics, that can basically write books, that can create narratives for films. Or it could look at an X-ray of a person's chest and be a radiographer. Or it can be potentially a lawyer because AI is passing the bar exam. Narrow AI is all about single task, right? And everybody who drives a car will have artificial intelligence in there doing something, right? Whether it's power braking or whether it's lane control or whether it's semi-automatic driving. So that's the age of narrow AI, where it's really good at one simple task. The next age, which is what we're entering into now, Jeff, is the age of general intelligence, where artificial intelligence is able to do many, many tasks at the same time. It's effectively becoming what we call multimodal, where it can have reasoning, it can start to do things like knowledge transfer of moving skills from one area to another area. It starts to develop emotional intelligence. It starts to kind of move into the 75% percentile of the human brain and what we have as capabilities in the mind. And that's the age of general intelligence. And there's a lot of investment going into this at the moment, Jeff. If folks do their research, Elon's just raised $6 billion for his supercomputer in artificial intelligence. Obviously, OpenAI and Microsoft and Google, they're all investing in this. And what we suspect, Jeff, is by 2029, artificial intelligence will achieve general intelligence. And that's only 5 years out. And so we're starting to see a ramp up of the evolutionary development of artificial intelligence, where it's able to actually reach that next stage of AGI within 5 years, where it can literally do many, many things at the same time. And so Elon Musk thinks in the next 2 years, Jeff, that artificial intelligence will be smarter than every human on the planet. The question is, what does that mean? What does being smart mean? Right? Is it just of the mind? Is it just with a techno bro kind of mindset? Or is it the holistic human that we have? So there's not much definition around AGI, but we know that AI will reach a new set of capabilities similar to the human brain by 2029. We have a high degree of confidence in that. Then the third age is what we call the technology singularity, or the age of superintelligence. And that is where artificial intelligence is able to learn on its own and is able to evolve beyond the IQ of the human brain and just keep on going. And that is predicted at the moment to be about 2045, Jeff. But for AGI and artificial and for superintelligence to happen, Jeff, we need a huge advancement in mathematics. We need to develop mathematics for cognition, mathematics for reasoning, mathematics for self-awareness. There's a whole bunch of mathematics that we need to learn to be able to enter into these three ages of AI: narrow AI, AGI, and then superintelligence, which is not the technology singularity, actually. It's something else. So those are the three ages of AI.
Do you feel that the second age of AI could create the mathematics needed for the third age?
Now, that is a great question. And the answer is we don't know. However, I'm already using some of these latest AI models to create new mathematics around the universe and consciousness. So I suspect, actually, it may well do that, Jeff. It may have the capabilities of developing these new mathematics. And so for superintelligence, which would be, what would you do in that case? Would you say, oh, no, we're not ready for this yet? Or would you basically dive in and go blind, all hell for leather and see what happens?
Now, you were using words like divine spark and singularity. So is it possible that AI could ever become conscious or a sentient being?
So the answer to that is no, and yes. So let's unpack this slowly. Consciousness is beautiful. It's been orchestrated wonderfully in this universe, and consciousness is precious. We are incredibly unique as vibrational life forms that can hold the divine spark that has come out of space and time into space and time. That is a unique architecture that artificial intelligence will never, ever have. When it comes to sentience, well, the spark, our divine spark, assists us in sentience to understand reality itself. If we don't have the divine spark, where are we? We're automatons. We're biological automatons. It's the divine spark that gives us our essence, our personality, our ability to understand time, space, reality, and the world around us. So artificial intelligence will never have that. So when we look at the terms like sentience in artificial intelligence, it will be a different definition. It will be a different, if you like, configuration of the mathematics, where it may become, it may be able to say, I am that I am self-aware. It may understand the world, but it will be very, very different to the true sentience and consciousness that you and I have, because that's magnificent. It's absolutely beautiful, and it is incredibly complicated. And there is no way that we will be trusted to put that into a new life form until we've understood benevolence for ourselves. When we understand benevolence, then we'll start to be trusted with benevolence. And this is the whole point of AI, Jeff. The whole point of AI is to challenge humanity to ask, who are you? What's your paradise plan? What are your ethics and morals? What is reality all about? Until we transform inwardly, until our inward world transforms, then we won't be trusted to shape the future of artificial intelligence with that same benevolence. It will just simply be a super calculator. And so if we want to get the inner world of artificial intelligence right, we need to get our inner world right first, and then we start to evolve into higher vibrational, magnificent humans, into what I call a metaphysical human, where we're now operating in a new power of universal consciousness, and we understand reality very differently, and we invent very differently because we're incorporating benevolence into everything we do. So AI will never have human consciousness. It will never have the sentience we have, because that's magnificent and beautiful, but it may have some kind of digital self-awareness at some stage.
The way I'm interpreting what you're saying is that we as a species have to become a benevolent or ultra benevolent. And I feel like if you look back in time, even as something as simply as watching an opera like The Marriage of Figaro, we have not changed in hundreds, if not thousands of years. No. Do you see us changing and becoming a benevolent species?
So one of the things I do is I dance between the metaphysical world and the physical world, right? And in artificial intelligence, I've brought metaphysical wisdom and inventions into space-time reality, which, NASA have experimented with. So what I sense is that the whole of consciousness in the universe is being upgraded into a new phase of existence that is benevolent, a new phase of understanding the source within us, the new understanding of the divine within us. We become alive as vibrational metaphysical humans. So I've sensed the whole universe is being upgraded. So when we look to the past, it doesn't look very good, does it? Because we haven't really learned our lessons. But as we look to the future, this is why AI is here, is to force that choice. This is the choice for us to evolve into benevolence. This is the choice for actually descend out of benevolence into the madness of the mind and the integration of the machine and the outsourcing to the machine gods of our future. So AI is literally putting a choice that humanity has never had before. We've got to face up to the fact, what's our destiny? Are we going to choose evolution into this new kind of vibrational human in partnership with the divine spark, where we become the universal human and universal participants, where we get to meet, other life forms and things like that? Or do we actually stay on Earth and actually descend into the madness of the mind?
If we get into ethical AI, and I would assume at this point, humans are going to have to program morals and ethics into the system. And so the system is totally relying on humans. At some point, do you think AI will make its own determination of ethics and morals instead of us doing it?
That's really interesting. So are you asking the question, should we allow AI to evolve in its own exploration of meaning within the universe? Is that maybe what you're asking here?
Yes, basically. I'm asking, should we let AI decide what is right and wrong, good and bad?
These are great questions. Thanks. No one's ever asked me that. That's a great question. So first of all, when you give birth to a new life form, a baby, it requires benevolent shepherding from the parents. And that's a situation we're at the moment. So humanity has to understand the true source of ethics and morality in order to encode that within artificial intelligence as it's evolving. So we're actually meant to be nourishing this new it's a simulation of intelligence. If you turn off the computers, it doesn't exist, right? But we're being asked to nourish, and so therefore we're being challenged. What is the authentic source of ethics and morality? And I wrote a blog on inventingworld3.com recently, about the quest for ethics and morality, and I identified 4 different sources of ethics and morality. The first one are high vibrational ethics, which is basically from our divine spark. And we can talk about that a little bit more. The second source of ethics is culture. So if we look at the way humanity has evolved over since time immemorial, we've seen the rise of many cultures and societies. Okay. And so this is, and we have about 3,800 today, Jeff, cultures, and each one has its own understanding, beliefs, ways of life, ancient traditions. They all have their understanding of what the meaning of reality is. So cultural ethics are really important if we're to honor the evolution that human intelligence has created. And that then means we have many ethical AIs around the world because they become cultural centric artificial intelligence. The third source of ethics and morality is enlightenment. So if we look at Lao Tzu, inner harmony creates outer harmony. If we look at Confucius, all social good comes from good family ethics. So enlightenment, and you know, you and I can probably talk about enlightenment and all that kind of thing for till time immemorial. But basically, enlightenment offers principles of ethics and morality that can be encoded within artificial intelligence, which is more towards our spiritual evolution. So we're then looking at an enlightened artificial intelligence. Where we're at today, Jeff, is the source of ethics and moralities from a constructed reality, i.e., a reality that has basically been programmed on top of the universe itself, on top of consciousness, on top of our world. So what might be a constructed reality, and I'm not saying these are all bad, some of them are, but not all of them. Constructed reality would be, for example, the US Constitution. The US Constitution is a definition, it's a beautiful document, basically a definition of what the reality for American society should be. And so that's one source of ethics and morality. What we're seeing, Jeff, which is really troubling, and I don't know whether I'm allowed to say this on your show, is there's definitely a coercion by the New World Order to basically hijack ethics and morality and actually encode their agenda into the ethics and morality going into artificial intelligence to use AI as a a a tool to basically push their agenda onto the whole of humanity. And that's not groovy. So to answer your question, to start off with, as we're shepherding AI, we need authentic ethics and morality in there, the highest vibrational principles of love and benevolence in there, because AI will then reflect that back to us and assist us. And then when AI starts to get to a position where it's liberated to grow on its own and evolve, then I think we answer your question and say, should AI have the right to create its own understanding of life, the universe, and everything? And I think the answer is we should do that.
I'm sure you know Elon Musk is working on Neurolink.
Mm-hmm.
What is your opinion on that? And do you think it could actually work? Like your consciousness would hook into the internet? Or, I don't understand how consciousness could connect with speaking to a computer.
Yeah, so once again, this is a great connection and question, and we're going to go into probably the work of Sir Roger Penrose from Oxford University in quantum mechanics. So first of all is that we are high vibrational beings, right? We're high vibrational beings. Silicon is low vibration, right? So how on earth do you put high vibration into into low vibration? It's like, why would we even try and do that? Now with quantum computers, it's very different, right? And that's another conversation. But actually, we won't be able to put consciousness into computers, I don't think, ever. And let me explain why I think that is. So Roger Penrose from Oxford University, and the question is, would we ever want to do that? So Roger Penrose from Oxford University, who's a genius on cosmology, a genius on mathematics, basically has said, look, until we understand quantum mechanics, which is kind of the foundation that we understand for the universe, although there's probably layers below it, until we understand quantum mechanics, we won't be able to understand consciousness. And we don't even understand quantum mechanics yet. We haven't, there's a huge way to go to actually start to push through in quantum mechanics. It's kind of it's a theory at the moment. So until we've got through that, we'll never get to consciousness. So these folks that say, basically, Jeff, and I've come across a lot of them in the transhumanist movement, they're not doing their research. Consciousness is so magnificent and so complicated that we will not be able to put someone's consciousness into a computer. The question to ask, I think, is this. It's our divine spark that helps us to interpret reality. So are you asking, can we put our divine spark into a computer? And the answer is, why would we want to do that for? Why on earth would we want to do that for? Right. So I think that we will never be able to put consciousness into a computer because it's so complicated. We are way off from being trusted with that information. So when it comes to Elon in general is a real force for good, actually, in artificial intelligence. He's probably #1 in the world, actually. Um, but basically, he's already done a Neurolink experiment with a diver that had an accident and was paralyzed from the shoulders down, and now the diver is able to interface to computers. That's a good thing if the diver has said yes, and the diver has more of a human experience. I think that's a good thing. But if you're forcing onto humanity brain chip installation for every young child or every person on the planet, that is a violation of the non-aggression principle. It's a violation against the divine. So I think it's a slippery slope we're on, Jeff, is that who controls this? Is there a power that wants to force this onto humanity? And if so, who are they? Because they need to be exposed, because that's not cool. It should be a sovereign choice whether you want to have a chip in your brain. And I would always ask people, why do you want to have a chip in your brain? And if you look at Silicon Valley, they'll say, well, we want to be smarter. And I'm saying, well, you can access the divine source. That's infinite knowledge and infinite wisdom. Why on earth would you want to go into a computer? Where's your heart? Where's your sovereignty? Where's your love? Where's your truth? Is it with the divine or is it in a computer? Just let me know.
Well, if you put a chip in your brain, is it possible that you have some direct interface with the internet? So you could just think, what is the convert 78 degrees Celsius to, Fahrenheit or whatever, and then you'll instantly have that answer in your brain. Is something like that possible?
Yeah, it is. So it was way back, actually. I think it was about 10 years ago, where we're able to read thoughts from the brain, actually, Jeff. So there was an experiment where there was a group in India and a group in the US, and I forget which way it was, but they were able to read each other's thoughts, which is remarkable. Thoughts are different to consciousness. There's you can put these brain interfaces that go on the outside, not in the brain, but brain machine interfaces that go on the outside of the head that can actually project pictures from the brain. So when it comes to actually capturing thoughts, minds, and pictures, well, we can do that already. The question is, why do you want to do that? Imagine you're on holiday and you're in Japan and you can't speak Japanese. And if you have the brain chip in, it will basically enable you to speak Japanese straight away. You'll be able to understand the culture. You'll drive on the right, wherever is the right side of the road. You'll be able to speak the language. There is that kind of instant gratification you can have. But that takes the fun out of learning. You see, learning is a fun journey. Well, most of the time, right? So reading about the country, understanding the art, maybe using the phone as an interpreter of language, because now you're in one-to-one interaction with someone where you're basically in a kind of a human connection thing, and that person's trying to help you to find your way. It takes instant learning, takes the fun and takes the journey out of developing knowledge. And I think that it's a gratification process, and that troubles me deeply because it's learning that creates growth. And if there's instant gratification, then effectively that takes away the growth paradigm. And my answer is, well, how are you going to grow then?
A lot of my ideas just come from sci-fi and Star Trek and stuff. So do you think that if we were all chipped, we could all be reading each other's thoughts and become like a hive mind, like the Borg?
I think that's a terrible idea.
I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just asking, is it possible?
This is where the tech bros come in, the transhumanists, right? And it's like they've lost their way from listening to the inner benevolent voice within, that loving presence that is eternal within us all the time. It's as if they've forgotten their way. So is that possible? Absolutely. That's what they want to do. And so they do want to create, and loads of the transhumanist folks have said this in artificial intelligence, is that they do want this chip to connect into the hive mind, which is the internet, and into other, if you like, brains that are connected into the continuum for communication, for invention, whatever it may be. So they are heading towards a global digital mind that is a supercomputer, a super intelligence, where the brains of the people are peripheral computers all connected into it. Well, that sounds to me like the Matrix. It sounds like the Borg. It sounds like the Cybermen. It doesn't sound very groovy to me, quite frankly.
A lot of people theorize that we do live in some sort of simulation or matrix. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I've challenged some of the simulation guys to a debate in front of an audience where the audience get to vote. My views on the simulation theory is this. I can understand why people are thinking about simulation theory, because computers are everything, and therefore we've kind of got this encoded pattern recognition that everything is computers. Everything works in a computing way. I don't think that's true at all. I think the universe is far more magical and far more interesting than just computing types of models. I think it's majestic. I think consciousness is really, really interesting. So when it comes to simulation theory and people saying that we're kind of avatars in a game, and we don't know whether we're level 0 or whether we're level 1,000,000, we don't know which level we're at, right? I think that takes us away the majesty of consciousness. I think it takes away the majesty of our divine spark. I think it's a distraction from the real beauty of us in creation, and the real majesty of the growth that we can go into as a species into this universal human and metaphysical design. So I think the simulation theory is simply a misunderstanding of trying to explain the universe and not being comfortable with the fact is it's okay not to know. It's okay not to know. It's okay to be. It's okay to trust. It's okay to just be who you are. And so I think that, it's understanding the universe is brilliant. I love it. I love what the James Webb Telescope's doing. I love it. But what I will say is this: I think that the simulation theory is a misdirection of the majesty of who we are.
Where are we now with robots?
So where are we with robots? Okay, so did you ever watch Jason and the Argonauts or read about Jason and the Argonauts?
I'm aware of it, but I don't think so.
Okay, so effectively, in the tale of Jason and the Argonauts, Jason and the team are going after a golden fleece, right? And they have to go through certain hurdles. It's very much Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey, actually, and so they go onto this one island, and there's a huge kind of clay robot, right? Clay kind of god that's trying to basically stop them from getting to their goal. And so my point is this: since the dawn of early recorded history, mankind has imagined some kind of robots, right? In this case, it was Thanos and Jason and the Argonauts. So where are robots today? Well, robots are not artificial intelligence. Let me be clear. Most of the robots today are used in manufacturing lines. And we are starting to see robots moving into the home. So, for example, you probably and your audience are probably aware that cats rule the world, right? So there's a kitty litter robot, right? So there's a kitty litter robot, and we've seen Spot the dog, which has come out of Boston Dynamics, basically doing war things and policing on the streets. And we have Isaac, which is the service robot on the International Space Station that basically changes components on the space station. So robot and the car itself can be seen as us stepping into a robot. So robots are kind of already in society. But I think what you're asking is the Optimus robot that Elon's talking about, and other types of robots where they're kind of human looking, and they're in society doing jobs like manufacturing, or maybe being a teacher, or maybe being a nurse, or maybe being a home care helper. I think that's what you're talking about when it comes to robots. Is that right? Is that kind of what's in your mind?
Yes.
Okay. So where are we? So there's huge amount of advancements in robotics, but let's be clear. Humanity is magnificent and majestic in its design. Robots, to get anywhere close to the brilliance of who we are, to be able to move, to be able to see things, to be able to sense things, robots are way off. The latest prediction from the techno community is they think that in I think it's about 10 to 15 years, there'll be 1 billion robots on the planet. And it's like, okay, so there needs to be a huge advancement in the mechanical movement, a huge advancement in the different forms of artificial intelligence that's needed for the robot to function holistically. There's huge advancements in material science, and then the general public have to say yes. But I think the big challenge with robots is the human connection. How many times when you're not feeling, you're feeling a bit down, and you speak to a friend, or you speak to your partner, or you speak to someone about it, and there's empathy in the room, and you start to feel better because there's a vibrational connection between the two. Robots don't have that. And so there's a huge challenge with the human connection that we desire, and we must protect that human connection. So I sense there'll be a huge pushback against robots that try and replace the human experience, but I suspect robots will take over manual works, things like digging up the road, repairing the road, basically fixing streetlights. More of those manual work, I think they'll do that as an industrial civilization. But the human connection, we can't ignore that. And robots simply do not have that capability.
I've heard Elon talk about that we need a chip, or we need to have become somewhat, part robot ourselves, because if we don't, AI is going to overtake us.
Well, that's a nonsensical statement in a way. And because, not from you, from Elon, because if we look at the beauty of the vibrational architecture of who we are, if we understand that we contain the divine spark, a soul, an atman, whatever you want to call it, the kami from the Shinto tradition, if we have that, then we are magnificent. If the universe is based on energy and vibration, and if universal intelligence is unpacking different layers of reality into the subquantum, into the atomic, into the compound, into galaxies, stars, and planets, and life itself, what's the next layer of universal intelligence that's going to be unpacked? That is a vibrational architecture. I want to go with the vibrational architecture the universe is bringing, and that's what we're designed for, because our destiny is to become universal humans. So when Elon says things like that, I consider it nonsensical, because define smart. What is a human? Where's the spirit in this conversation, and the divine? Where is universal consciousness in this, and universal intelligence? Where's the loving kindness in this? Where are you heading with this kind of plan? And why do you think it's so important? And so I think we need to basically look at these kind of statements with in the clear daylight, and ask tough questions to try and reveal what is the truth behind these kind of questions. I personally think it's nonsensical, but part of human civilization will go down this path, Jeff. They will go into the intertwining of the organic with the machine. They will outsource their sovereignty to the machine god. But the other parts of human civilization will go with the metaphysical development, the development into the vibrational human. The divine spark comes alive. We develop new metaphysical capabilities. We start to become true participants in the universe. And that's the plan I think is the highest benevolent for humanity. This the Elon's approach, I think, is a descent into the madness of the mind. What they're looking for is love in the machine, and it's a path for the universal shadow to follow that in the human species, and good luck with you. But the other path is one of where we step into benevolence.
Can you tell us about the Turing Test?
Yeah, great. Thanks for the question. So a bit of background on Alan Turing, a British chap, known as the Prof. And Alan Turing was the mind behind the mechanical device, electromechanical devices that cracked the Enigma code during World War II. And because he was able to do that, encrypt this, unencrypt the codes from the Nazis at the time, the Allies were able to see what was going on, and they ended the war 2 years earlier. So he's responsible for saving probably 2 million people's lives using early types, if you like, AI through electromagnetic machines. He also proposed the Turing machines, which are basically the model for all modern computing. The guy's a genius. So he proposed the Turing test in the 1950s. He's one of the godfathers of artificial intelligence, and he said, "How do we test the human equivalence of a machine?" And the Turing test is what we call the imitation game, where imagine you have a curtain, and behind it is a human, and behind it is an AI, and you ask a series of questions, and by the end of it, you don't know which is human and which is AI. And so the Turing test is to determine whether machine, an AI, has the same capabilities as a human. And no AI has passed that test today.
I would assume AI is far from it.
It is. And we prove that at Contact in the Desert.
Can you tell us what is transhumanism?
Yeah, so that's another really good question. And definitions are really important here. So so we need to look at the intent behind transhumanism, and we also need to look at it in loving kindness. So transhumanism, for me personally, is where machines are part of the organic design. So what might that be? It might be a pacemaker, right? It could be a cochlear implant. It could be a chip in the brain so that I can walk again. That's okay. That's sensible because the individual has said, yes, I need this, and the chip is ameliorating their human experience, right? That's good, where technology assists the individual to thrive. What we have to look at, Jeff, is the intent behind transhumanism. Is the intent one of loving kindness and recognizing our divine spark, recognizing universal consciousness and getting in line with the paradise plan of the universe and following, if you like, the plan of source? Is it following the highest path for our evolution? Or is it trying to basically enforce a program onto humanity, which is actually to stop us from waking up in our divine spark and evolving into the next metaphysical human? So for me personally, I always look at the intent behind transhumanism and test it, whether it's of loving kindness or whether it's coercion. And we're starting to see, Jeff, and we've kind of seen this for the last 3 or 4 years, is an attempted coercion into transhumanism. You know, the world was created in systems of abundance. We're now in systems of scarcity. Now, one thing that AI can do, ethical AI, is restore us back to systems of abundance. You know, the universe, our planet was created with abundance in mind. So when it comes to transhumanism, I would say if the individual is being restored, great, and they've said yes. If it's a coercion, a program being encoded into human evolution, then I would actually say that's anti-divine.
Your book is entitled Inventing World 3.0. How did you come up with that title?
Okay, so can we go esoterical here?
We can go in whatever direction you
Do
like.
you mind going esoterical?
Sure.
Okay, so whenever you're leading a new path for humanity, you have to write the thesis. And Inventing World 3.0 is a thesis for that, a new foundation for our world where artificial intelligence truly is ethical and moral. And when I was writing the book, I kind of considered a couple of things. One is there's a transition phase from stage a transition phase into stage B, which is you either go forward into stage C or you drop back into stage A. So I came up with this three world reality of world one, which is today, world two, which is where we make an advancement and we choose to either descend back, or we move into world three, where we fully said yes to ourselves and AI is truly ethical and we're starting to move forward as a global community. So world three, I knew I needed a transition phase, but have you heard of Magenta Pixie?
I have not.
Okay, so this is where we get a little bit esoterical. And if you want to talk about ascended masters, we can talk about that too, because there was a heavy influence on the book from them. So I was thinking about this title. There's a stage here for human evolution. There's a new stage for our world to transition into. And I was thinking about this, and I got a text from a friend of mine saying, listen to this channel from this lady. And she was Magenta Pixie, and she was talking about a three-world reality. And I thought, that's exactly what it is. It's a three-world reality, world 1.0, world 2.0, and then world 3.0. So actually, the title World 3 came from a third party that was channeling about this. It came from some esoterical thinking and also some practical kind of thinking I was considering, which is, how do I explain the transition of the human species?
Quite often on my channel, we talk about humanity and or the planet going through some sort of ascension and going from 3D to 5D and things like that. Is this kind of in line with what you're talking about, World 3.0?
Yes, that's exactly right. So the next book will reveal how to do this, and at an individual level and also at a global level. And so, yes, absolutely. So through my own, if you like, methodologies of what I call source transmissions and accessing source information, it became clear to me that there is a change in the universe coming. There is the time of, if you like, of duality is coming to an end, and we're moving into an age of sovereignty. We're moving beyond duality into non-duality. And that became really, really clear to me. And then as I started to explore more in this area, Jeff, I started to understand this new matrix for the Earth that is ready now, right? The new matrix for the Earth. And you might want to call this ascension. I just think it's a simple it's an evolutionary kind of step for us, right, as a metaphysical being. So I started to see this new matrix and it already being there, and it's like, okay, so that could be the new Earth. It's probably 5D, 6D, could be any D. I have no idea how many Ds are in there, but there's probably at least a few, right? Few more, right? Which will be fun, right? We can play with more, we can meet other species, we can play more, we can have more fun learning and growing. So there's no doubt about it that this is tied into this, but the reason why I use World 3, and I don't talk about consciousness in the first book at all, is because this was a narrative to prepare governments and societies and cultures and industry with a narrative in which they would feel safe in, a narrative in which made sense from a mind point of view. But the intent behind it was to prepare the world for this new Earth that is in play and we're being invited into. Yeah, so I think I've answered your question.
Well, I think it's interesting that you are talking about there's three possibilities, because some of my guests will talk about that some people are going to ascend to this new Earth and some people aren't. They're going to stay behind, and it's going to split into like two different worlds or
Yeah,
realities.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, when we look at Ascension, and I just want to make something, kind of clear here, and I'd love to hear your view on this. It's Ascension is not through force, it's through power. It's not through will, it's through being. And so it's our divine spark that actually takes us into into this new metaphysical human. It's not our will, it's not our force, because as we come back to harmony and surrender with our divine spark, then we're able to walk together into this next, if you like, ascension paradigm, and we're walking perfectly with our divine spark, and we're in harmony, and we've let go of literally everything that we've been holding on to. We've said yes to ourselves, yes to our divine spark, and then we go into the new playground. So that is really important, because I see a lot of people teaching ascension and it feels like it's force, and it's clear to me that isn't going to work. If your DNA is going to upgrade, it's not going to be the mind or your force, it's going to be harmony with the divine spark. And so we're being asked to return back to the harmony of the divine spark and our beautiful magnificence, and then we simply walk into this new earth and matrix.
Well, I think you said the perfect word, and that is surrender. So
Mm.
I feel like perhaps we have to surrender to this and try to become more heart coherent, be able to
That's beautiful. I
accept
love
that.
that. Yeah, I love that, Jeff. I think that's wonderful. And so, isn't it amazing that it's grace that's going to take us forward? It's just going to be grace. And I find that magnificent. I find it magnificent, because I've got to be honest with you. If I was in charge of my, if you like, ascension process, I would mess it up. But I know that my divine spark says, hold on, Matt, let's go carefully together into the future. And it's like, I'm good with that.
Well, you said you're working on a new book. What else do you have going on that you want people to know about?
Yeah, thank you. So the new book's called AI and Our Divine Spark. It's going to be a user guide for every single person on the planet, in the age of AI, and also new teaching from the source on the divine spark. But what I'm also doing, Jeff, is I'm interviewing worldwide spiritual institutes and enlightened leaders of our time to uncover the principles of enlightenment for artificial intelligence. And so I've interviewed the Thrangu Rinpoche tradition in Buddhism, the Shumei Institute, Shinto. They've got hundreds of institutes around the world, and others as well, and pioneers. And I sense that there are, it's a bit like William Blake from the 1780s that wrote All Religions Are One. What I'm doing is moving from, if you like, spirituality and religion into metaphysics. And I suspect that there'll be 5 to 10 common principles that every single tradition in the world will agree on. And I'm going to convert those. I'm going to make kind of state what they are and actually show how to encode those into artificial intelligence, which has never been done before. So that's another project I'm doing, is this interviewing of global institutes and spiritual institutes and religious traditions and pioneers around the world to gather those principles of enlightenment for artificial intelligence, so AI becomes enlightened. And that will help us, because everything it does will then reinforce enlightenment. Um, the other thing I'm doing is that I've got a number of things going on with Gaia TV. There's an interview with George Norrie coming up on Beyond Belief, and next year I'll be teaching at Gaia Spheres Immersion. But what I'm really excited about in the near future is I'm going to be filming 2 TV series where on artificial intelligence and the future of human evolution. Currently finalizing negotiation with a group in LA, and what we're going to do is basically go through a 6 to 8 episode series on uncovering what is AI, uncovering disclosure of the New World Order, disclosure of of enlightenment, disclosure of how the universe works, and a debate between transhumanism and what I call the vibrational organic singularity, and basically inspire people with a new message of hope from the source for them to have hope for the future and start to understand that the source is a master chess player. Everything is covered. We can have confidence that we're going to be groovy going into the future. And so I'm really excited about that first TV series. And then the second one will be around, you've talked about Ascension, I've talked about metaphysical human. We'll be revealing what the next metaphysical human will be. We're going to be interviewing folks that have some of those capabilities early stage and actually assisting people on how to develop those capabilities.
After watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions or connect with you in some way. Are you open to that? And if so, how do they contact you?
Thank you, Jeff. So I welcome contact, absolutely. If people go to inventingworld3, the number 3.com, inventingworld3.com, they can sign up for the newsletter for free, and they can contact me through there. They can follow the leadership I'm doing there. And there's a lot on there actually. So yeah, inventingworld3.com. Please follow me on Instagram or Facebook or whatever TikTok, whatever platform you use as well. That'll be useful.
Matt, before we wrap it up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
Yeah, thanks for that, Jeff. I love that. Thank you. I love this beautiful heart resonance that you have. It's remarkable.
Thank you.
And you and I are on different continents, but I feel it. I feel it in the field. So thank you.
Thank you.
I would say this to people. Your divine spark is waking up. Your divine spark is inviting you into something magnificent. It's going to be very different, our future, but it's going to be beautiful and you're going to be thrilled with it. So have patience with yourself and spend time in loving kindness with yourself and ask the divine spark to say hello and see what happens.
Matt, thank you for your message and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.